Welcome, dear friends, travelers, and seekers. You've joined me at the Heresy of Truth, where ancient lore meets modern inquiry. Today I answer the question of, why am I here? To do that, we must explore a profound transformation from the stringent doctrines of evangelical Christianity to the liberating practices of paganism. Join me on this deep dive into a personal odyssey of faith, doubt, and enlightenment. My spiritual odyssey commenced within the vibrant yet constricting walls of a fundamentalist, charismatic, and evangelical church, a place where the air was electric with fervor and the faithful gathered in multitudes seeking salvation and divine presence. From a tender age, I was deeply embedded in this community, a world where every sermon and hymn was imbued with the certitude of divine truth and the stark dichotomy between salvation and damnation. Ordained as a minister at the youthful age of 18, I stood before congregations, tasked with guiding souls towards their own salvation. This role bestowed upon me not only a sense of profound responsibility, but also an intimate connection with the doctrinal core of evangelical Christianity. Here, the doctrines of eternal damnation for non-believers and the imminent rapture were preached with a fervor that left little room for doubt and debate. Yet beneath the surface of this fervent orthodoxy, questions began to simmer within me. Questions about the nature of divine justice, the concept of predestined damnation, and the fate of those countless souls untouched by the gospel. How could a loving deity, proclaimed as infinitely just and merciful, consign his creations to eternal torment? This doctrinal dissonance became a silent crack in the foundation of my faith. I quite accidentally encountered the rich and diverse tapestry of thought that was through the lens of Gnostic Christianity. This ancient sect, with its emphasis on esoteric knowledge and spiritual enlightenment, offered a stark contrast to the orthodox doctrines I had once preached. The Gnostics spoke of a divine realm accessible through inner wisdom rather than just blind faith. It introduced me to concepts such as the divine feminine and the spiritual significance of personal revelation. This exposure to the Gnostic text was both enlightening and disorienting. It challenged the very foundations of the evangelical doctrine, prompting me to question the exclusivity of salvation through Christ alone. Here was a version of Christianity that embraced a broader, more inclusive view of the divine, one that resonated with my growing doubts about the rigid dogmas of my upbringing. Compelled by these burgeoning questions, I began seeking the most undiluted, original form of Christianity that I could find. That part of the journey carried me to the historic church, where I studied and became a Roman Catholic. The ceremony of the liturgy intrigued me, and I felt much more at home in the structured rituals of Catholicism. Yet, doctrinally, I still found cracks in the foundation. I still saw the shortcomings in the operation of the behemoth that is Catholicism, so I continued to seek. I ventured into the ancient practices of the Melkite Catholic Church. The liturgies, chanted in the hallowed echoes of Aramaic, the language once spoken by Christ himself, were hauntingly beautiful. They offered a connection to a Christianity that seemed both ancient and authentic, a form of worship that transcended the modern schisms and doctrinal disputes that had begun to tarnish my faith. In these ancient rites, I found not only beauty, but also a historical depth that the modern evangelical movement seemed to lack. The Melkite tradition, with its emphasis on continuity with the early church that predates the Roman Catholic Church, provided a glimpse into a form of Christianity that was both communal and mystical, less concerned with dogmatic purity and more with the lived experience of the divine. Yet, even within this ancient and venerable tradition, I encountered the complex interplay of history, doctrine, and human ambition. The concept of apostolic succession, intended to safeguard the integrity of the Church's teachings, also laid bare the human elements of division and control that had shaped the Church's history. Each claim to authenticity by different sects within Christianity revealed not a unified body of Christ, but a fractured community, each part asserting its hold on a contested truth. These revelations, combined with my experiences within the evangelical church, where I witnessed a growing emphasis on spectacle over substance, led to a profound spiritual crisis. I began to see the church not as the unified body of Christ that it claimed to be, but as an institution marred by the same human flaws and corruptions that it preached against. It was within this crucible of doubt and disillusionment that my journey towards a new understanding of the divine began. A journey that would eventually lead me away from the certainties of evangelical Christianity and towards the more inclusive and historically resonant paths of paganism. Amidst my theological explorations, I stumbled upon a concept that would irrevocably alter my understanding of the supernatural: the divine counsel. Encountered in the midst of ancient scriptures, Psalm 82 opened before me not as a mere hymn, but as a window into a world where gods convened. It says, "God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment." The psalmist's declaration suggests a celestial assembly of divine beings. The passage was a revelation, challenging the monotheistic foundation upon which my faith was built. It hinted at a form of early Judaism that acknowledged multiple deities, akin to the pantheons of neighboring cultures. This scriptural evidence suggested a more complex theological landscape than the strict monotheism preached in modern churches. Driven by this discovery, I delved into historical and archaeological studies, uncovering the roots of the Israelite religion. It bore striking resemblances to the polytheistic traditions of the Canaanites and other ancient Semitic peoples. The Ugaritic texts, for example, revealed a pantheon presided over by El, with deities like Bel and Asherah playing prominent roles. It mirrored the assembly described in Psalm 82. These findings were not merely academic curiosities. They were theological disruptions in my life. The existence of a divine council in ancient Israelite religion suggested that the evolution towards strict monotheism was not a revelation of divine truth, but a historical consolidation, influenced as much by political needs as by spiritual. This realization led me to reevaluate the foundations of my faith. Was the monotheistic God I had preached really the supreme and only divine being, or just one among many in ancient times who later dominated the narrative? The more I pondered, the more I recognized the polytheistic underpinnings of so much of ancient spirituality, which had been sanitized by later religious reforms aiming to centralize and solidify power under one God, under one church. Diving deeper, I found undeniable evidence of the divine feminine in the early Judaic tradition. Yahweh, the Abrahamic God of Israel, had a wife, Asherah. Her temples were scattered throughout the ancient landscape, often connected to or nearby one of Yahweh's own temples. But I also found evidence of a purge. King Josiah was ordered by the Abrahamic God to destroy all of Asherah's temples. He was commanded from on high to eliminate Asherah and therefore the divine feminine from the narrative. It favored a domineering patriarchy instead of a balance between the masculine and the feminine. As I grappled with this information and the countless questions it created, my spiritual boundaries expanded. I began to see the divine not as a singular, omnipotent figure, but as a spectrum of divine essences, each one embodying different aspects of the cosmos and the human experience. This polytheistic perspective was not just a theological alternative, but a spiritual liberation, freeing the divine from the narrow confines of dogmatic monotheism. The concept of the divine council did more than shift my theological perspective. It revolutionized my relationship with the divine. It allowed me to explore connections with multiple deities, each offering unique insights and embodying different facets of life. This was a form of spiritual engagement that felt genuinely authentic, rooted in ancient traditions, yet vibrant and relevant to modern existential quests. Embracing this broader view, I turned towards paganism and its traditions. Traditions where polytheism was not a forgotten relic of the past, but a living, breathing practice. In paganism, I found a spiritual framework that celebrated not only the diversity of the divine, but also the diversity of human experience and the natural world. This journey through ancient texts and theological revelations brought me to the doorstep of a world where gods and goddesses walked beside their devotees, where the sacred was ingrained in the world, and where spirituality was as diverse as nature itself. It was a profound departure from the path I had walked as a Christian and as a minister, but it was a path that promised a richer, more inclusive understanding of the divine. As the theological foundations of my former faith crumbled beneath the weight of historical truths and spiritual discovery, I found myself drawn irresistibly towards the rich tapestry of paganism and heathenism. These traditions, with their profound respect for nature and emphasis on personal and communal ethics, offered a vibrant alternative to the rigid dogmas that had once confined my spiritual expression. My entry into the world of Norse heathenism marked a significant turning point. The Norse gods, with their vivid personalities and epic sagas, were not distant or infallible deities. Rather, they were beings who shared in the struggles and triumphs of existence. Odin, the Allfather, seeker of wisdom at great personal cost. Thor, protector of humanity with his mighty hammer Mjolnir, and Loki, the mischievous outcast, became central figures in my spiritual landscape. Adopting the daily practices of heathenism, I began each morning with a meditation, invoking the gods and seeking their guidance for the day. This practice was not a rote supplication, but a conversation, a moment to reflect on the virtues these gods embodied: courage, perseverance, wisdom, innovation. It made me think of how I might better embody these qualities in my own life. The Mjolnir pendant I took to wearing daily became more than a symbol. It was a tangible connection to my faith, a reminder of the protection and strength it offered. Each time my fingers brushed against the cold metal, I was reminded of my journey and the resilient faith that had emerged from my own questioning. My spiritual practices extended beyond solitary rituals. The pagan community, with its diverse and inclusive approach to spirituality, welcomed me into a world where dialogue and shared experiences were valued over doctrinal conformity. Here, in gatherings both large and small, I found a sense of belonging that had eluded me in the increasingly impersonal megachurches of my past. Participating in communal rituals celebrating the turning of the wheel of the year, Samhain, Yule, and other festivals, not only connected me to the cycles of nature, but also to a community that celebrated life in all of its complexity. These festivals, with their roots in ancient traditions, were times of reflection, joy, and renewal, where the bonds of community were strengthened and the cycles of nature were revered. It was through these new spiritual practices that I came to understand the true essence of paganism. Not as the caricatures so often portrayed in popular media, but as deep, richly woven tapestries of belief and tradition that emphasized respect for the earth, the divine, and each other. This transformation was not just a rejection of my past, but an evolution towards something greater. As I built my shrine at home, dedicating spaces to the deities that chose me just as much as I chose them, I was constructing more than a physical altar or shrine. I was building a new spiritual foundation that embraced complexity, celebrated diversity, and sought wisdom in both the old and the new. In embracing Norse heathenism and the broader pagan traditions, I found not only spiritual fulfillment, but also a philosophical framework that challenged me to live with integrity, honor, and a deep-seated respect for the interconnectedness of all life. My journey had led me from the constrictive dogmas of my youth to a place where spirituality was as vibrant and varied as the world around me. A world where gods walked among us, not as masters, but as guides, and where the sacred was celebrated in the earth, the sky, and the sea. As my personal path in paganism has grown, so too has my vision for a future where these communities can thrive openly and inclusively. My dream is to establish stronger bonds within the pagan community. Bonds and connections not yet built, but vivid in my imaginal. I'm committed to weaving together a network of individuals that supports pagans and heathens from all walks of life, facilitating both online and in-person connections, to offer educational resources on the occult and pagan beliefs, to demystify our practices and deepen our communal knowledge. My presence on social media is the direct manifestation of that commitment. Perhaps it will be the vehicle to start the next part of my journey. Education is a cornerstone of this vision. By providing clear, accessible information about our history and practices, we can dispel misconceptions that have long shadowed paganism. This educational outreach extends beyond our community, aiming to foster understanding and respect among the wider public, and paving the way for a more accepting society. Another key aspect of my dream is to provide essential pastoral services that affirm the dignity and spiritual needs of our community. Whether it's conducting marriage ceremonies or offering guidance through spiritual counseling, or even providing dignified funeral rites, these services, they're vital. They not only serve our community's needs, but also affirm our traditions as equally valid and profound, just as those of any other faith. The journey to this dream is filled with challenges. Realizing this dream requires much, and it will be difficult without a shift in societal perceptions about paganism and heathenism. Yet, every step forward is a step towards a future where our spiritual practices are recognized and respected. In the meantime, my work continues in nurturing the existing pagan and heathen communities. Through online platforms and local gatherings, there are already many pagans and heathen laying the groundwork for a bright, connected future. We must share our knowledge, support each other's spiritual journeys, and create a network that spans beyond geographical boundaries. Our efforts are about creating a vibrant, supportive community that lives the values of paganism every day. This community stands as a testament to the power of faith and fellowship, united in our diversity and strengthened by our shared respect for the natural world and each other. Every conversation, every ritual, and every act of kindness within our community helps pave the way for that shared future. These are the building blocks of a reality where our beliefs can be celebrated openly, and where our spiritual practices can flourish freely and fully. So, what is the answer to the question of why am I here? Well, now you know a little about my background, but that is how I got here. The why? It's you. Each person that hears my voice, and those who don't, are my reason for being here. And for you, I will keep dreaming and striving to make our existence just a little bit brighter. What is your path? How did you get here? And why are you here? Let me know. Reach out, leave a comment, always subscribe, as each one of those is greatly appreciated. But thank you for joining me today on this profound journey. If you're exploring your own spiritual path, remember the journey itself is just as important as its destination. Stay curious, stay open, and may your path be filled with insightful encounters and transformative experiences. Until next time, continue to welcome the wisdom of the old gods and the mysteries of your own experiences, and never cease to embrace the heresy of truth.